What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I wanted to put this in the beginning. Of course, we are coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, which is our home here for X Drinking Buddy. Remember to subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. You can also follow on social media at X Drinking Buddy on Instagram, Twitter, and follow me at Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Check out BrennanTComedy.com for the upcoming shows. And don't forget to get your X Drinking Buddy merch. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Boom. That's it. Easy peasy.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your X Drinking Buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Queens, New York, Thalia Romina.
Hello.
What's up?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
You know, I was in the rain. You did not look like you had a drop. How long have you been waiting out there? You don't look like you have a drop of rain on you.
Yeah, well, I've got my big pea coat and an umbrella, you know?
Oh, I fucking hate umbrellas. I hate umbrellas.
I normally never use an umbrella, but, you know, we're on the high-def camera again.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
God, look fresh, so fresh.
You
so
know,
clean.
you know.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front.
ThaliaRomina.com. Follow me on @TheRealThaliaRomina because my old Instagram was banned because I bullied someone.
Oh, didn't see that coming. Actually, I did.
Yeah.
I 100% did.
Yeah, I know.
With
Everyone's
the
like, that
hoops
makes sense
on
for
and
you.
you got the long talons. You're from Queens?
Born and raised, baby.
What'd you say? What was the bullying?
The person was bullying a friend of mine. So I was drunk, actually. And I was
We're getting right into it, folks.
I was drunk and I was like, you're not going to bully my friend. So then I started bullying this kid. It turns out it was a child. And I said that teenage bullying. And I said it was, that their parents don't love them. That
Yeah, classics.
I said something like, you know, you're on welfare or something. I like hit them with the classist,
Yeah.
you know, anti-poverty vibes. And I got banned. So I got banned from Spotify.
That's a great thing to do. We don't like the poor around here. They're gross.
Ew, the
Get them
poors.
out. The poors. All right, we're getting into it early.
So
you
yeah,
got
so
banned. What was your original handle? Did you have?
it was Thalia Romina.
So you had
and now
it.
it's the real Thalia Romina. So yes, it was.
Some would argue that your last account was actually the real Thalia Romina.
Yes, and I should have put the fake one. But I have a fellow actor friend who her Instagram is the fake Coral Peña. Shout out to her. Famous
Shout out.
actress. And I was like, I don't want to copy her. So that's why I
Yeah.
did the real Thalia Romina.
What? God, so much to get into. So you moved to New York, or you live in New York.
Born and
were
raised.
born and raised.
Born and raised, Brennan.
I know. I'm sorry.
Can I call you Brenny?
That's what my entire family calls me. Actually.
Oh, cute. Brenny Bear.
Normally, it takes people a second to get there.
Yeah, but you know, I like jumping ahead.
Jump
on the line.
Jump right in. So, a couple things I want to talk to you about.
Sure.
Because we were talking about this. You were on Natalie's Classy Trashy show at The Stand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we met.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about sobriety and just sober curious and all that kind of stuff. And you had a lot of opinions and a lot of insight on it. And so I was like, oh, definitely got to come on the podcast. But then we were talking about just stand-up and stuff like that. And you were talking about how you're newer to stand-up.
Yeah.
And then out of the blue, you go, yeah, but you were like talking about representation and all this stuff. And I was like, wait, if she's newer to stand-up, you're an actor.
Yes,
you
yes,
do.
yes, yes.
That's a long-winded way
Do
of
the
saying.
acting thing.
You do acting. Thank you.
Yeah.
How did that start? As a young woman growing up in Queens, were you like, I'm going to be a star? Or were you like, yo, fuck you, this is my block, dog. Gang,
Is that how we talk? No, I've always wanted to be an actor. So allegedly, my father says I was named after this famous Mexican singer actress, and her name is Thalia Sodi. is Thalia.
Thalia.
She's married to Tommy Mottola, actually. If anyone knows who that is, he used to be the head of Sony Music. So anyway, I used to watch her novelas, and I was like, yo, I want to do that. Like, this is what I want to do.
So how old were you when you, because this is, I love the little minute details. How old are you when you're like starting to discover that you want to do this?
2 to 3 years old.
Okay, so you were like in it as a kid.
Pretty much, yeah.
So when you were a young kid, obviously you're not like on the TV like setting this up. Were your parents like sitting you down and you were like watching it with them, or like how did you even?
Yeah, it was like we watched a soap opera or a novela. It's very quintessential Latin household.
That's what I was going to ask, because I never watched
at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, General Hospital with my mom or anything like that.
No, but like Univision or Telemundo, like, or Univision, like these were like classic quintessential Latin American household channels that you would watch, and so we would just watch that all the time.
Okay, so the novellas would come on in like prime time, and everyone would just watch it together.
Yeah, usually my father was maybe working or whatever. Like my parents didn't really care that much for it, but
working.
Yeah, I know, right? But they basically...
That's an inside joke, by the way. That wasn't a shot at Latin culture or Queens or anything like that. We have talked about...
This is a rapport.
Yeah, something is going to come up later, and that's why... And then the audience is going to be like, oh, that's why he said that.
Cool. Yeah.
So then you were just like, I want to do that. And what was the process...
to get into it?
Yeah, because it's a weird thing. New York is fascinating in the sense that like everyone who's the best at whatever they do, where they come from, moves to New York. You know, whether it's acting, whether it's comedy, whether it's music.
But if you're already here, and I've talked to so many, like I'm going to have Julio Diaz on the podcast, but him and I have also talked about this just at shows and stuff and I find it so fascinating because even some of the bigger comics that I love, like, were from other places and then moved to New York. Yeah.
So how do you...
Some of the best Latin comics are from New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that checks out. There's a huge Latin population up here. And so when you're watching those novellas and you're like, I want to do acting, what is your trajectory from like elementary school, middle school, high school? Do you go to college? Do you go to conservatory? Like, what happened?
Basically, with my family, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching can relate to this if you have immigrant parents, there was no such thing.
Yeah.
Like, that was being in America. It's like funny because my parents were very much like, I came to America for you. And I'm like, and I'm living the dream. I am literally living it for you. So like, you came to America so that I could have a better life, so that I could make a choice, like becoming an actor. But it's like obviously not sustainable. It was so hard. So my parents were very discouraging, actually.
Okay.
And to this day, it's a point of contention in our relationship.
I could imagine. Yeah, it's very... Where are they from originally?
My mother is from the Dominican Republic and my father's from Argentina.
Okay. Argentina?
Argentina.
See, I can do it too.
Look at that. Look at you, little Brenny Bear. So basically, yeah, they were very much discouraging. I started taking acting classes. I begged them to put me in acting classes. I was in sixth grade, so it was 10.
Okay, 10. So you were off rip. And you're not kidding.
No. And then I signed with a commercial agent.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not that, but this is the best part though. I'm not fucking famous. Guys, I live off of my work. I live off of being an actor currently. It's all I do. I don't do any survival jobs, nothing. And I am a joke.
Survival jobs, I like that.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have that shit. So I got an agent, and then my parents were like not really super helpful for me getting work. And then I got into a very prestigious high school called LaGuardia High School for performing arts, music and art, performing arts, but whatever. We call it LaGuardia. It's a school on the Upper West Side that's specialized, and you have to audition to get in. And my parents tried to get me not to go because I got into the science high school, and they were called Bronx Science, and they were like, don't.
We have former guest was in Bronx Science.
Who?
Spider-Man.
Oh.
No, I'm kidding. Brent Birnbaum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He went to Bronx
Brent,
Science.
yes. Me and Brent had this conversation, actually, about like growing up in the city and whatever.
Because he said Bronx Science, and I was like, wait, that's where Peter Parker went. And he was like, very good.
Yeah.
Because he's a huge comic book nerd.
But yeah.
So it was either Bronx Science or LaGuardia.
Yeah, and I was like, obviously I'm gonna go to LaGuardia. And then I convinced my mom to do it, so she signed the papers behind my father's back.
Ooh.
Hey, yo. And then we I went there, and LaGuardia was like a beautiful experience, very high school still.
What did you do to audition?
I did 2 monologues, and then you had to do them like 3 times.
What was the monologues from?
Oh, God.
Come on.
Happy Birthday, Wanda June. And it was a monologue about being dead, but it's supposed to be like a happy monologue and how she like loves being dead. Mm-hmm. And then I did...
We ask the tough questions here on Next Drinking Buddy.
I don't remember.
The reason why this is fascinating to me is because auditions like change the trajectory and course of your entire life.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, it's always...
It's crazy.
Like... It's so fascinating because like even like auditioning is different obviously for stand-up because it's our material that we wrote.
Right.
I wish I could just be like, okay, I'm going to take an excerpt. This is from Mostly Stories by Tom Segura, and then just do his hour.
But you know what it is, though? That's the thing. I think something that comedians can use from actors is that comedians can't take direction very well because they're so used to being themselves. And actors sometimes lose their authenticity because they're busy putting on a mask. I've heard
that's so succinctly put. I've heard people talk about the reason why actors, especially bigger actors, don't do so many interviews is because they've gotten so entrenched in saying other people's words that they've kind of lost who they are.
And I think that's integral to being a good actor is you got to know who you are because, the character is not you. It's facets of you, but it's not you. It could be the extreme version of you, but at the end of the day, that's not you. Yeah. So it's why actors always get married, get divorced because they fall in love. They get confused with their emotions.
Well, and that's the other thing too is as someone who's a very good actor, I've realized, no, I'm kidding. But seriously, but it is one of those things where I've been in situations before where, and this is the comic in me, I want someone to like me. So I, just act.
Sure.
I act out of character. I act like not myself. And then sometimes that person ends up liking you, whether it's a friend or a relationship or whatever. And you realize, down the rabbit hole, like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
But I'm so afraid to be rejected. And I have such bad abandonment issues. I'm like, well, I'll just act like how they want me to act. And that's why I'm so good in the restaurant at serving.
Yeah, of course.
Because I can be whatever the table wants me to be.
When I was a tour guiding too.
Yeah, exactly. So you get into LaGuardia.
I go. I don't get signed to an agent. Like my commercial agent ends up dropping me. I don't get signed to an agent.
How old? You were 10 when you got the commercial agent?
No, I was 13.
Okay. And then how far? Because, high school starts around 13, 14. So how far were you into LaGuardia when you get dropped?
I don't even remember. Honestly, I want to say probably within the first year. My parents were
wow.
Like very not unforgiving.
So were your was it your parents or was it the commercial agent?
I think it was a mix of both.
Okay.
Which is funny because then years later he becomes a manager and we also tried to work again and it just didn't really happen. But after high school I was I wanted to go to acting school. Mm-hmm. So I went to Tisch School of the Arts. Okay. And I have a BFA in experimental theater with a minor in genetics because I loved science so much. We did talk about this. So my parents, everyone thought I was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then I thought actors were crazy. And then I met pre-med students and I was like, oh no, you motherfuckers are fucked. Yeah. There's a lot going on. It was giving it's just the things people would do to get an A. I was like, oh, this is crazy. And also no bedside manner, which I know you developed later in life if you want to be a doctor, but it was no social development.
Autistic, yeah.
Crazy. I'm just, and so everyone thought
We've all seen The Good Doctor on CBS.
Literally, everyone thought I was the crazy clown kid. Teachers were always they always knew who I was in a room of 300 people because I was just so outspoken and so excited to be. I'm just a fucking actor. I'm just how actors are always just everything is.
We
amazing.
love everything.
Yeah. They're not demented the way comics are, which I'm demented to my acting friends. They're oh, she's yeah. Whatever. So I did that.
The most broken toy in the toy chest.
100%. So I did that. I get signed to a manager soon after college. He
so
drops
wait, you
me.
You went from high school to college,
not
no
having
representation.
Anything. I just was booking. I was booking gigs here and there, but nothing crazy.
Okay.
And then signed with the manager. They dropped me because one of their partners had passed away, and it was too much. And I was getting passed. So in comedy, when you get passed, it means you get approved, right? Yeah. But in acting, when they pass on you, it means they decided not to go with you.
This is something I run into with people in the arts all the time because I'll be like, yeah, my goal is to get passed at 3 clubs this year.
And they're what?
And they're like, so you want to get fired? And I'm like, no, I want to get in the door.
Yeah. It was simply confusing for me when I got into comedy. So whatever, I end up, I booked a ton of regional theater gigs, a ton of bilingual stuff. I end up signing with my voiceover agents who are amazing. Mm-hmm. And then I start looking for reps for legit work, which is film, TV, and theater. And then I signed with them, but then the pandemic hit and then here I am.
So what is it? This is I talked to, shout out Candace Bryant. She's a friend of mine that I worked with for a little while. She's also an actor, and it's the stuff. There's so many parallels between obviously music, comedy, and acting. It's all art, performative art, but there's so many differences. Because I'll ask her, I'll be like, how do I get representation? And in the comics world, it's you just keep putting shit up online. Now in 2024, you keep putting stuff up online and you hope somebody sees it and they're like, oh, we like this guy or we like this person. They're starting to blow up. You have to basically build your own following before you can get any sort of representation. But with acting, it's totally different.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, no, you just send your demo reel to people, and if they think you're right for certain parts, they'll sign you because they understand that's an untapped market. Like they can make a lot of money off of you. Like I heard a story, the guy, the Winning Time thing on HBO, which is like it's a docuseries or whatever they call it, where it's like it's all actors, but it's based on real events. The guy that they signed to play Magic Johnson, one of the leads, had like 100 followers on Instagram. Like nobody cared. But he looked like Magic Johnson when he was younger, and he was a very good actor, so they signed him. And in comedy, it's totally the opposite. It's like if you don't have 100,000 followers, go get fucked.
Yeah. I think that's what I like. There is a standard of perfection in acting that there is not in comedy.
Yeah.
Like there are different avenues of comedy, and I think comedy's changing and evolving with the times. I'm reading Paris Hilton's book. What's so fucking funny, Brennan? Because it is a great fucking book.
A Latina from Queens. I'm reading Paris Hilton's book.
It's amazing.
And she inspires me.
She does. She's been through some shit. And I think that the way the media treated her in the aughts and like in the 90s was horrible.
Oh, I completely agree.
She talks about Sarah Silverman making this joke at the MTV Awards about her and the sex tape and whatever, and how horrible she felt about it. And then how Sarah Silverman, they discuss it on Paris's podcast, how Sarah Silverman then like basically heard what happened on the podcast and was like, yeah, things are changing in comedy. I probably wouldn't make those jokes today. Yeah. And I think what's great about like evolving in the arts is that you are changing with the evolving. You know what I'm saying? So like you're also changing and she can look back and cringe, and that's okay. And like Paris accepted the apology and was like, yeah, word. Like I can recognize that and accept that like that was shitty and that was a time where like those things were okay and now it's not anymore. So I think the same like comedy kind of has, you can change how you get to the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And I think there's a kind of a proverbial pecking order that people want to like adhere to, and the relationships, and it's called hazing in my opinion. Like they haze
that's what it is.
People,
yeah,
which is what they fucking do to me all the time. And I'm like, yo,
I've actually talked about this with other comics where back in the early aughts, that was a thing. Like
it's still a thing but I think it's a very old school of thinking. I think it's
antiquated. It's also calmed down a lot.
Yeah.
Like in the early aughts, I talked to certain comics about this, and people get tired of me name dropping. So I'm just gonna say I talked to comics about this. But you would walk into the cellar and they would rag on you and like until like a weaker person would be like, I'm gonna fucking go, like I'm leaving, like this is stupid.
Yeah.
And it's a barrier of entry. It's a way to be like, well, you got to be tough. And I went through the same thing when I played college football, more so in high school. When I played high school football, bullying was just rampant everywhere.
Yeah,
that's how I got the scars on my body, because I didn't know how to deal with it. And I've talked about that a million times. And I would hurt myself. And it was interesting because comedy now is we still break balls. Like to your point, we still like bust balls, but it's not I remember doing a show like 10 years ago, and like I had a bad set, and people I thought were my friends were like genuinely like, you should quit, like you suck. Yeah, and they're like, what? We're just breaking balls. But I'm a fucking sensitive baby. And I was like...
Most comics are. Comics are mad serious.
Oh, yeah.
They're mad. For people that joke all the fucking time, they're mad serious. And
I say this all the time. For me personally, I can only speak from my experience. I am the most sensitive about my jokes. So like we can break balls. You can be like, hey, you fat piece of shit. And I'll be like, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm also like the strongest person who does comedy in New York City.
So you could be sensitive because you will beat the fuck out of someone.
Well, and that's it. And I've been arrested 8 times, and like I do have a trick. Like I do. Like if you flip, I'm bipolar too. Like if you flip the switch, it's gonna be bad. But I've gotten to the point where, through counseling and meditation and all that kind of stuff, where the switch doesn't get flipped.
The Hulk, stays in.
I just stay angry. But
I'm always angry.
That's my secret. But to the point, I will break balls with people, and I'll let people break my balls as long as it's not about my actual material, because my material is based on my life. So that feels personal.
Yeah.
So if someone goes, hey, Brennan, like Dan and I have this conversation all the time where Dan will be like, well, what if you said it like this? Or what if you reworked it like that? Or he'll be like, oh, that's the bit. Like I'll say something, he goes, that's the bit. Which is 100%.
Very helpful.
I encourage it. I enjoy it. But if someone just goes, why are you talking about that? Like, that's fucking stupid. That's when I'm like, I'll fucking kill you and everyone here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So to your point, as an actor who's now doing comedy, have you noticed, and what we were talking about before where hazing was so bad, have you noticed, you said you've noticed it, like people still try to...
Oh, of course. I think independently from the fact that I'm a woman.
You know, the ladies with your little tiny lady brains.
They're not funny.
Not funny. See, you got it. You did. The Latina community loves me.
Yeah, I think that I totally understand. That's not where my body is. Like, that's not my stilo to like do that. I come from a very collaborative medium, which is performance art.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, in theater, in film and TV, everyone's so welcoming and so warm. And like, you know, I did a TV show and the actor's way more famous than me. Super like, we're here. You know what I'm saying? There is no, because the thing is in acting, you never know who's going to blow up when. So it's like, it's not personal. Whereas I feel like comics, it's like, it's personal. They're like, you don't have 7 years. So therefore you're not a comic.
Yeah, it's so funny you say that. There's a lot more parallels. I don't think it's as different as we might be making it sound. Because there are comics I know who are huge, but we share mutual things, whether it's sobriety or something like that. Let's be honest, it's sobriety. But they'll be really big comics, but then they'll also be nice enough to come on my podcast or be nice enough to like hang out with me and stuff, which is cool.
It's about relationships at the end of the day, which is the parallel.
Yeah, but there are also people where I thought we were close, not like best friends, but I thought like we were close enough, and then they just big time you, and you're like, oh, you
acting Hollywood now?
Yeah, like I thought we were cool. Or people who I had on this podcast, to your point about never knowing when they're going to blow up. I've had them on this show, and now they've blown up, and now they won't even like. I'll text them and be like, "Hey, I saw you're coming to New York," and they won't even respond. And I'm like, "We were like, I had you on my show when we were living in Florida, like when we were friends. Like, what is?" So that is interesting, and it warms my heart to know that actors are just like, no, we're all just doing it. Like,
I mean, I think look, it's funny because I feel like I had this conversation with one of my great friends, Alex Quo, great comedian. He literally said shout out. He said to me, he was like, I was telling him about how the best, like the comedians who've been in it for a long time, all say actors are crazy and that actors are weird because they have very kind of like tunnel vision thinking, and like I think the whole point of being a comic is to like point out inconvenient truths and also just like, you know, thought provoke, right? Like
I say it all the time, challenge the status quo.
Exactly, which is fine. So like I agree. I do think that there is a caveat to that kind of collaborative environment that it's almost like culty. Yeah. It's not that comedy isn't culty, because it is, but it's like I'm the tension, you know, comics are comfortable with tension and
yeah, we are.
And going back and forth. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me thought provoke, let's argue. Let's like, so, because you're, at the end of the day, you're making a point. What are you trying to say? When you're on stage, I have to ask myself all the time, especially when I'm writing a new bit, what am I trying to say? Because I have trouble cutting out the, you know what I mean, the devil's in the details. I don't need the details. Yeah. So it's like, I feel like I can understand where that comes from. But at the end of the day, I still choose collaboration over anything. And like, I think there's just a way to do things. And I will always make a mental note when someone plays me or like, when I feel slighted, I'll be like,
my list is so long.
No, because I'm a petty bitch. Like, that's just who I am. Like,
the most petty
it's something
bitch.
I struggle in therapy. Like, literally, like, it's like, she's like, just let it go. And I'm like,
no, not going to do that.
I'm never going to let
it go. Because then they win. Yeah. They win. They won't win.
I also just think, and maybe it's because I'm so self-righteous that I think that maybe that's where it comes from, that because I'm so self-righteous, I don't think I'm self-righteous, but maybe I am and I just can't see it, and that I think I'm supposed to do, you know, justice. Yeah. Like, you know, God is the only one that could judge you, but I'm not God. I'm one of his humble servants. Yeah. So, like, I will come for you if you come for me. Yeah. Like,
well, it's interesting you say that. I say it all the time. When I talk to my family, especially my twin sister, whom I love very much, shout out Hannah, she'll be like, because I've got nieces that I don't see enough because I'm the only one that lives in New York. Everyone else lives in Florida. Right. And so it's one of these things where, and I've wanted a family since I was 12 years old. Since my parents got divorced, I was like,
do you want to make a baby? I'm dead ass.
I used to, you want to hear something funny? I used to get really drunk and my pickup line was, you only have to be a vessel and carry it for 9 months. Oh my God,
that is crazy.
Never worked. This is when I was like drinking.
You're like 0 for 70.
God. I can't remember, but I'm 0 for a lot. But she's always like, why don't you just come home? And to your point, I'm always just like, no, I've got stuff I need. Like, I've got stuff I need to say.
Sure.
Like, I have so much to say and no one to listen. Like, I have to do this. And it's this weird thing where I think because I'd gone through so much in my life and because all the stuff that had happened to me and the fact that I should have been dead a few times and the fact that I made it through all that and was able to move to New York and chase a dream, I'm like, no, people need to hear. I've buried so many friends. It's like, I can help the people who are still out there. And it's this weird thing in my head where it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, you have less than 2,000 followers. No one gives a shit what you have to say, which on paper is true. But in my head, I'm like, no, I have to keep going.
No, yeah, of course.
So it's just that weird thing where it's, to your point about like, I'm not trying to be self-righteous, but there is a part of me where it's like, but I can help these people.
Right.
So it's like, I'm going to keep doing this. And people get mad at me a lot because they'll be like, oh, change this in the bit. It's funnier. And I go, yeah, but that's not how it happened. And they're like, well, it doesn't have to be true. And I'm like, I know it doesn't have to be, but
it's how it makes you, what makes you feel comfortable as a comic.
Yeah, because my voice is, I'm a dark storyteller. Like I tell stories about what have happened and I try to make them funny. And sometimes it doesn't work because they are dark. And people go, oh. And you go, I'm talking about it. We're making jokes. That's why it's fun.
I know. I've had bits like that. I had a bit about my dad going sober.
Let's talk about it.
That I don't do anymore because he's not sober. So I couldn't do it. I was like, it was too close to me. Like, so I basically was like, I'm going to start doing it. In the beginning, I would do it, and it was a work in progress, and I was getting ahs and getting ohs. Like, and I was like, damn, am I being that mean? Like, and I was just calling him a pussy for being sober, essentially.
Yeah.
And I had a quick act out, whatever.
And then he said, hold my beer. Yeah. I'll raise you.
Literally, I'll raise you a vodka shot. So
hold my car.
That's because he gave me his car. But anyway, I basically was like, okay, I kept trying to change it. So I was like, so the audience wouldn't feel bad for him.
Yeah.
And then eventually it did work. But then when he stopped being sober, I was like, well, okay.
Can't even do it anymore.
Because I couldn't feel, the act out wasn't even real. That's not how he actually sounds. Like, I lie a lot in my stand-up. Like, I don't have qualms, probably because of the actor thing. I don't have qualms about, like, it being, but that was something that is like, there was no emotional truth. Yeah. Like, I was like, I can't do this.
Well, so that's the thing. That's a great, I love that you said emotional truth. When I say that's not how it happened, or it's for things where it's so outlandish where they're like, oh, take that idea, but then turn it on its head. It's like, that's not even. Yeah. So there are, I'm not telling 100% true stories. Sure. Like there are certain things that I manipulate and stuff like that. But the sense, the basis of the story, the emotion of the story is still true. Sure, yeah. So like I have a bit about, faking paralyzed. And it was really how the actual story is kind of hazy because I was wasted. But like I know the crux of what the story was, so that's the bit. But it's also one of those interesting things because it's just like I've tried to quit smoking recently.
Good luck.
And thank you. I've got a Zen in right now. Shout out to Zen.
Cancer sticks.
But I have a lot of bits about smoking. And in one of the bits, I say I smoke Newports. I don't vape. I smoke cigarettes because I'm a fucking grown up. Yeah, and then people who smoke in the audience are always like, And people who vape always like look down at their shoes. But I feel disingenuous even doing that now. And I've only quit smoking for like a month.
Right.
But like now.
Are you eating anything you can get your hands on?
Yeah, a lot. Well, and that's how I picked up.
Are you sucking a lot of dick?
No, not as much, not more than usual.
Than the usual, okay.
That's how I picked up smoking when I went to rehab at 25.
I was like, sucking dick?
No. No, I was an athlete my whole life, and my mom smoked, and I was like, oh, that's so gross. I'm never going to smoke. That's disgusting. And then I got to rehab at 25, and when you cut out the booze, I was just eating everything.
Yeah.
And especially I was going to the vending machine and just getting like Skittles, which is just little balls of sugar, and just housing it. And I gained like 10 pounds in 2 weeks. And a buddy of mine, shout out to Brendan, he's a heroin addict from Boston, so he smoked Newports naturally. And he goes, hey man, if you don't want to keep gaining weight, you should start smoking. And I was like, that's gross. And then I had my first cigarette and I was like, this is awesome.
This is amazing.
I look cool as shit. I feel cool as shit. This is so
I smell like shit,
cool.
but
I look cool.
Which is more important.
And then, I told myself I would quit eventually. And I kept telling myself, well, 35 is where I was like, I'll quit before then, but 35 is my deadline. And then I turned 35 and I was still smoking like a pack a day. And I was like, I got to fucking stop. But
what would you do? Would you start smoking again if Newport decides to? Shout out to Newport. If Newport decides
shout out Newports.
To sponsor the pod.
If Newport sponsors the pod, I'd come in here with a Newport's racing jack. My twin sister gets so mad because I will smoke in front of my nieces. And this is to your point earlier. We were talking about like
you smoke in front of them?
Comics, like tension and stuff like that. Like if we're outside and we've been like when they came to visit me in New York, like we're wandering around for hours. I will light a cigarette and walk.
You like hotbox your nieces?
Well, no, I'll like walk behind them. I'm like 10, 15 paces behind them.
And she's like, ew.
Yeah. And my twin sister, and I never know when to stop the bit. Like I'm pretty crazy about that.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
So my twin sister will turn and be like, what are you doing? And I go, they need to know how cool it is. And she's like, fucking put the cigarette out. And I'm like, well, they're not going to realize how fucking sick their Uncle B is, how fucking cool he is.
So funny. I was smoking weed with my siblings And my sister's kid wouldn't stop crying. So we would like pass over the kid, whoever wasn't smoking.
Yeah, obviously.
And then switch back. And I was like, this is cool. Like I was like, we are doing something cool.
Pass the baby.
I was like, pass the baby, pass the blunt, like pass whatever we have to pass. It was just like, I felt so cool in that moment.
Yeah.
And it's not cool at all, actually.
No, it's actually incredibly dangerous.
It's also like big loser energy.
Yeah.
Like
huge loser energy.
But I was still like.
That's the same thing when I was drinking, when I was like, I'm so fucking cool. Like, who fucking gets wasted at 5:00 p.m. on a Tuesday by themselves?
Yeah.
This guy.
Yeah.
And then looking back on it.
But when you're sober now and you see drunk people, don't they look fucking stupid?
I'm so aggravated with drunk people.
They're the fucking worst.
So
myself included. Yo, I was drinking yesterday. I got.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Let's get into it because we talked about Sober Curious and how you don't drink as much anymore. What happened yesterday?
Yesterday, I went out with a couple of friends from the gym, and I had a couple of drinks or whatever, and I woke up with the worst fucking hangover.
We talked about it. Different in your 30s.
It's fucking crazy.
It just hits different.
And I didn't have a lot to drink, and I had food, and like I was drinking water, and like whatever. I was doing the whole thing, but I guess I didn't have enough. But I did work out immediately before, so like maybe I was just dehydrated.
Yeah.
And I woke up with a fucking ear-splitting headache. I literally was like, head-splitting headache? I don't know. I don't speak English very well. What is it? Ear-splitting?
It's head-splitting.
Head-splitting, whatever. So
right? Now I don't know.
Ear-splitting? Whatever. I woke up with the headache.
Ear-ringing, head-splitting.
Ear-ringing headache?
No, it's just like when something's really loud, you're like, oh, my ears are ringing.
Yeah.
But when your head hurts really bad, you go, oh,
A splitting headache?
I have a splitting headache.
Wow.
We found it. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the podcast. Thank you for coming out. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, so I woke and I was like, what the fuck? But yeah, so I mean, I'm fine now, but I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah, it's interesting. The hangovers, because so I say this
also, I was not cool. Yesterday, I wasn't cool.
Yeah, that's what we were talking.
Cool
sometimes it's weird looking back on it because like I said, Doomed. I say this all the time, and it's a movie or a movie line that I took from the movie Burnt with Bradley Cooper. Very good film. Very good film. If you're in the restaurant industry, it's fantastic. But it's about the chef who's like known for being an awesome chef, but also he's hammered all the time and he does all these drugs.
Sounds like chef.
Yeah, and it was interesting because there's a line in that movie where one of the other characters, kind of the antagonist, says to him, he goes, doomed youth is very romantic, but doomed middle age is just sad.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt.
Corny.
When I was like 22 and I got in the settlement from a car accident when I got hit by a car on a bicycle after my first DUI.
I love it.
I blew through $26,000 in 28 days in Daytona, but I was like, this is so cool. Like I'm going to the strip club every night,
You're
throwing
like
money up. And I'm like 22, 23. I'm like, fucking let's go. And then to be 30, sitting on my couch alone after I got off from my brunch shift at like 2 p.m. and just start drinking, like alone in the daytime. Like it's like, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's not cool. It's not cool.
And so I wanted to ask you, because we've been kind of circling the drain on this, but let's just dive into it. So you come from a family of drinkers.
Yep.
And we were talking about this at the stand the other night, which is the thing that kind of really made me want you to come on. You grew up around it.
Yeah, I grew up around drinking.
Your whole life.
Yeah, I mean, I think in Argentina, the drinking culture is... Argentina. Drinking culture is very strong, but it's like in Argentina, you really drink beer and wine. Like you don't really drink hard liquor. Like that's considered like a different kind of thing. There's a lot of house parties are a huge thing there. Mm-hmm. So beer and wine is like the big go-to. Also, we're known for our wines. Like the wine's amazing. You drink with... but you pretty much drink with everything you do.
Yeah, Malbec.
Yeah. And we have great Chardonnays. We have some Rieslings, whatever.
One of the biggest producers of like one of the only producers of Malbec is South America. So Argentina
is like heavy.
Like the big
place to do it.
It's a softer red, a lot less tannic. The things you learn in the restaurant industry.
Light-bodied. Anyway, so whatever. It's actually not light-bodied, but whatever.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's actually pretty full-bodied. Okay. So in Dominican Republic, drinking.
You might as well call me a Malbec. Hey, get it, full body. Hey,
get out. It's my podcast now. So yeah, Dominican Republic, drinking is heavy, drinking rum, beer, very rum. So I started drinking rum and cokes, but I basically learned how to drink like an old man because my dad's an old man who drinks a lot. So I'm aware of like, I feel like I learned a lot about single malt liquors and whiskey, and my liquor cart's like extensive and different. And, and nobody wants to try the drink that I order because everyone's like, what the fuck? That's gross. But I kind of
It smells like a swamp. It's called peat, all right?
Let it rock. So yeah, I mean, I drink all kinds of things, and I'm grateful for that because I feel like I learned how to control my drinking by watching how it can go really left.
Yeah, it can
for
go.
other fucking people.
Yeah.
So I think I've matured in that way.
How old were you when you first started drinking?
So I got really drunk. First time I first had it, like I used to like put my thumb in the adults' drinks and taste it, and I was like, it was kind of good, which is like
Fucking psycho.
Yeah, I would just be like, you know.
The fact that you go, this is good, because almost everyone I've had on this podcast for the almost 200 episodes is like, for the majority of people, other than a few of us like me, where it was like, oh, I didn't like the taste, but it made me feel good, so I kept doing it. Most of the time, people were like, it was disgusting, it was gross.
No,
like,
I loved it.
And we talked about that. You're like, no, I love the taste of alcohol.
Yeah.
It's like my jam.
Yeah, it is my jam. It's so great. I mean, there are things that I don't like.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
That I've graduated to liking, but, because that's what happens. But I don't, I always liked it. I was like champagne. So I remember when I was 11, we were at like this New Year's Eve party or something with my family, and I had what I thought was cider at first. And then I was like, this tastes different from cider. It tastes like, I don't know, like there's a burn at the end. And I was like, this is champagne. And I kept having it. I had 3 glasses and I felt fun. But it was like really small shoot glasses. And my parents freaked out. They were like, my 11-year-old is tipsy. Like, what's going on?
Oh, mi niña.
Exactly. We were actually an Argentinian house, like family friend of ours. And so it was just like, what is going on? But then when I was 13, so my sister's 4 years, I've 3 siblings. Okay. 2 sisters, 1 brother. And my sister was like 17 and I was 13. And all her friends.
You are the youngest?
Youngest of 4.
We talked about this, yeah.
And she was like, let's get Marcel's little sister fucked up. Like, let's do it. Like, her friends. And I was like, I want to hang out with older people.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Like, let's have a Baja Blast. Like, let's do it. So they had like bought a bunch of Coors Light. And then one of the guys, one of my sister's guy friends, huge, his name is Joe. Love him so much.
Shout out, Joe.
He got like kicked out of the house or something. So he slept over that night. And so he had like a connect where he can like get like something like beer at a bodega. So we were drinking and kept drinking, whatever. And I was getting
and this is in Argentina?
Up. No, this is like moving on after 11. I was 13. Okay. This is in New York, in Queens.
Yeah. So 11, the champagne thing happens. And then at 13, you're in Queens.
And I was like, kept drinking. I remember, and I was like, I don't feel anything.
Drinking the silver bullets.
Yeah. And then I was drinking something called ponche, which is basically like Dominican coquito. It's just like this kind of eggnog, spiked nog that we drank because it was Christmas around, I think it was close to Christmas. No, it wasn't. It was in the summer. And so
this was just in the back of the liquor cabinet somebody found?
Yes. And I was like drinking it or whatever. And then I kept running to the bathroom to pee. And people were like, that's called breaking the seal. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't know what that was. And then I was like, every time I would walk, I was like, keep walking. Like, everything's so fucking hazy. Like, I was like, I don't see anything straight. I'm so dizzy.
At 13, you're like, what's happening? What's going on?
Literally. I was like, what? So then eventually I was like, I don't feel good. And I start throwing up. And then I throw up for a day and a half. Like, I was throwing up so much.
A little alcohol poisoning kickstarted.
Literally. And, like, my sister was so scared to tell my parents. She obviously told them. And they're holding my hair. And, like, my dad's like, I'm so disappointed in you. I remember I had this, like, clear. And then he's holding my hair being like, I'm so disappointed. And I was like, I'm sorry, whatever. And then I could not shower. I had such bad alcohol poisoning. My mom was like, you need to shower. Because in DR, if you're sick, you shower. Yeah. If you're happy, you shower. If you're sad, you shower. You always shower. Like, showering, cleaning is, like, very important. Mm-hmm. So she's like, you're fucking showering. Limpio. And I was like, I can't. Limpio, literally. So finally, like, I shower. I remember I'm hovering over, like, at this point, I'm just throwing up bile. And I, like, was like, God, please. Like, growing up very Catholic, I was like, God, please tell me what I need to do to stop this. And I look up, and the name of the company, the toilet company, is Church. And I literally, like, I was like, I'll go to church. And I did. I went to church. But only, like, one Sunday. But
really?
But I did go to church.
You're like, this is my new life.
Yeah. I was like, well, I guess. I used to be an altar server, so I, like, was used to church.
Yeah.
And I love church because I get to taste the wine.
Yeah,
you know
for
what
sure.
I mean? So it was just crazy to me in that way.
So when you're 13 and you end up giving yourself alcohol poisoning,
so bad, an
insane sentence to say.
Yeah.
What happens as far as your experience with alcohol from like through high school and stuff like that? At this point you're at LaGuardia.
Yeah, and LaGuardia, I mean, I grew up in the city. Like city kids, you know, we're a little different, and
a little.
People say you grow up fast, but that's bullshit. It's not about growing up fast. It's about how you were raised. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, trust me. My girlfriend works on the Upper West Side at a school, and those kids. I mean, they're great kids, but it's one of those things.
Diet euphoria.
But what I'm saying, like in certain areas, like it's a wealthier area, so those kids have a lot. You know, they still see crazy shit on the street and stuff like that, but they're still just kids.
Yeah,
like she tells me stories, and they're still kids. Whereas I've been on the train before. And there's like a 12-year-old across from me, and he's the hardest person on the train. And I'm like, don't fuck. So to your point, it's more about how you grow up, not where you grow up.
Exactly. I agree. It's just that we're a little more independent than other people, and we're used to seeing everything, so I'm not sheltered. So yeah, of course I would get drunk and I would throw up sometimes. But like, and that was kind of me figuring out how it is. So by the time I got to college, I wasn't throwing up as much. You know what I'm saying? And I wasn't wilding out in college because I wilded out in high school.
So the college you went to, you had mentioned
Tisch, which is NYU. It's just NYU.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask. So it actually had other, because there are conservatories and stuff which are just arts. But
no, it is. It was just that.
But you got a minor in genetics, so you're obviously...
NYU was one of those places where you could do that. But it was hard, though. I was taking a bunch of summer classes, winter session classes.
I couldn't imagine. So you said you were getting it out of your system in high school. We talked about getting drunk for the first time at 13, like drunk. What would you still experience? Like, were you able to find your boundaries as far as drinking quicker? Or you were still just going wild?
No, quicker for sure. Because I was like, I remember thinking like, wow, if I have one drink, it's fine. If I have three, I throw up. Like I'm like trying to figure out. You know what I mean? So I think I did that.
An old school alchemist.
Yeah, literally. So I was like trying to figure out the chemistry of like what was okay for my body because I'm like a small girl. You know what I mean? I'm 5'2". I was like in college. I was like probably
5'1".
20 pounds. 5'1.5" actually. You motherfucker.
We had this conversation.
Yeah. 5'1.5" because the half counts. And so I was figuring it out.
Oh, trust me, the half counts.
Grower or shower?
Come on. I'm a 6'1" white guy, obviously.
You're still not answering the question.
Well, I actually had a bit about that because when I played college, because obviously grower situation, but when I played college football, there were some
anacondas,
hammers,
it's crazy,
and I'm just walking around like
you're like, this is what I got to work with,
I'm walking around with my enlarged clitoris. Like, this is uncomfortable. Are you guys going to, can I borrow that? Are you going to use that later?
Cover that. Yeah, no, fact.
Just do the Silence of the Lambs thing. I just tuck it and walk around. Like, would you fuck me? I would fuck me.
What was I saying? I don't even remember.
We were talking about high school and partying and stuff.
So I was able to manage it. I just didn't feel like I went crazy in college because I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Also, I was like exposed to a lot of stuff like, so I was like, whatever. I had sex already when I got to college. Yeah. I wasn't like, I was in a relationship for the majority of college. I literally was just like.
So wait, when you say you obviously have sex in high school, is it a boyfriend? Is it just at a party?
It was a boyfriend.
Okay.
It was a boyfriend.
That always interests me because I was not a party guy. As we've discussed, I was bullied.
My parents were mad strict though. I will say that. It wasn't like I was out all the time.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask because my sisters, my brother, who was the oldest obviously and was super popular, he was kind of the test case. So he would have parties when our parents would go out of town and stuff. And I remember being a little fucking narc as a kid. I was such a narc. I would go in the woods in the back of our house and I would find these bags, trash bags of just beer cans and stuff.
It could be bodies because.
No, just Florida. Beer cans and all this kind of stuff. And then, good call. And then I would go inside and I would save it. So when me and my brother would get into a yelling match, I'd be like 10 and he was like 16.
Oh my God.
And I'd make sure my parents were there and I'd be like, that's why I found all those trash bags full of beer cans.
Oh, I would hate you so much.
Oh, I remember one point I did that and I remember him saying to my like he was freaking out because me and my brother are both mentally unstable and he's like freaking out and my dad's like, calm down. He's like, I should fucking kill him. And that was the first time where I was like, keep your fucking mouth shut, Brennan. Because you're 10 and your brother could kill you. Yeah. Now it wouldn't even be a contest. But back then I was like, maybe be quiet.
That's so funny.
Well, I say it all the time. You can tell people who've never been punched in the face because they just say shit and you're like, the fuck's wrong with you?
Yeah, I know.
So for you, having stricter parents and stuff,
my parents trusted my sister.
My experience was like my sisters being able to go out and party and have friends over and stuff like that. Same thing with my brother. For you,
no.
Because they trusted your sister, were you able to piggyback off that?
No. So
wow.
Hey, because she did whatever. She's a doctor. She did whatever my parents want. You know what I mean? And also wanted to. It's not that she became a doctor because of them, but she's in
surgery. Like, motherfucker.
I fucking hate you. Take it out on you now. No, I think that my sister it's called. There's an expression in Spanish. Gatica Maria Ramo pone la piedra y esconde la mano.
Sí.
Which is like she's just like a secret squirrel.
Yeah. La idioma de español, mi segundo idioma, necesito para mi mesa.
Oh, okay, exactly. No. What do you mean I need it for my table? What are you talking about?
For the restaurant.
Oh, I see. Of course, kitchen Spanish.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basically, back of house Spanish. Basically, yeah, so it's like she would tell on me sometimes.
Really?
It was
your older sister?
Yeah, man, the worst. I know.
Come on.
I know, we're so close now, but oh man, I wanted to kill her.
The older siblings are supposed to protect you.
She ratted on me when I had a 20-year-old boyfriend. I was 15. And I was
We did talk about this. I completely forgot until you just brought it up. So let's talk about that. How did you meet this person? We need his full name and address.
Oh my God, no.
They're coming for you.
He.
No, but you were in high school.
Yeah, I was in high school. He was working the Sweet 16 that I was attending, and his creeper ass tried to bag. No, I'm kidding. I like sort of was into it, whatever. And then we like decided to date, and he was very respectful, and he was a really good boyfriend for the majority of the time. Like, you know, he was just immature, like any 20-year-old would be who was dating a 15-year-old. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta have some screws loose in order for you to be okay with that.
You gotta have a lot of screws, not some, a lot.
You gotta and then I was like, I was cool with his sister, but then I got super close with her. I feel like we got even closer really after me and him broke up because we were together on and off, but mostly on for 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So like that, you know what I'm saying? It was a big part of her family. Like, you know, same, like he called my mom. Like we were like very close.
So did your parents know about the relationship?
My sister tattled on me, and then my mom ran into me with him at the bus stop.
And she
was like,
this is at the time when the relationship's first starting.
Yeah.
So you're a child.
Yes. And then she like had a conversation with him, and then she felt like he was like mature enough to date me, and like so she was like, I will send you to jail if you have sex with her under the age.
Yeah,
I will send you to jail. And he was like, I believe you. And we didn't have sex until it was legally
allowed.
Yeah, which is 17 in the state of New York. So crazy stuff, right? But yeah, I mean,
14
whatever.
in Hawaii. All right, let's go.
I think that, you know, things would have changed. I probably would have ended up marrying him if like.
What happened?
I said no.
You just.
I was like, I don't want to be with you.
Yeah.
I think we were and I genuinely believe he's married now. I genuinely believe that we wouldn't have made
She's
each other
17,
happy.
So everyone relax. He's 38.
Imagine. She is, I think she's a little younger than me though, his wife. I'm not sure. But yeah, like he literally like, I don't think we would have made each other happy.
Concrete jungle where
dreams are made of.
So you're partying all through high school. You get to college, you're not partying as much. Are you? Because I
would say I partied more in college because I was like I had freedom. Like
but you knew your limits a little bit better.
A little more, yeah. I was very kind of like I had a friend who got roofied and nothing happened to her, but she was so like, and I was like, dude, New York is not what you think. She's from Venezuela.
Yeah,
she was from like Caracas, and she was like, it's not fucking. It's a war zone where I'm from. Like this is a happy fucking meal. And I was like, no, dude, like please be careful. She ended up getting fucking roofied, and she got home before anything happened. But it was like, I was like so crazy about that stuff, you know?
Well, and it's different too because the straight white guy is going to speak on world policy. So everyone just strap in, you know? You know how it is. No, but it is interesting because I talk to my grandma about this all the time because she grew up in the former Yugoslavia during a bunch of civil wars and stuff like that. It's a different kind of danger.
Yeah.
When you're trying to sleep through bombings and air raids and there's, you know, people getting murdered in the street, and she would just be like, yeah, if you spoke out, you would just disappear.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't social media group, you know, do this for change. She's like, you would just be gone.
Yeah.
And no one would see you again.
Yeah. The stakes are different.
Yeah. So the stakes are different, but I think that kind of danger is very apparent. So like if you walk out into the street and you hear gunshots, you go, I'm going to go back inside.
Yeah.
Whereas in New York, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Because there's not, you know, there are still shootings and stuff like that, but it's not an open war zone in the street.
No.
And so there's certain things like the being roofied where you're just at a bar and you're like, oh, everything's great. There's still fucking shitheads out there.
Yeah.
But it's just a little different. So I think to your point, it's like, that's not all rainbows and butterflies. Like there's still some creeps out here.
Yeah.
Like you still have to be careful.
Yeah.
And so how did you know she got roofied? Like what happened?
She
when is this? Were you freshman, sophomore?
Freshman or sophomore year.
Okay.
I wasn't with her she was my roommate. She's one of my best friends. I don't think her family was in town, so she like went out and had one drink and didn't feel well.
And came home and then
like started
lights out.
Erratic behavior.
Yeah.
Like crazy behavior and like doesn't remember anything.
Yeah, I had a buddy on, Matthew Fagerberg, who helped produce my one-man show, but he said the same thing where he was at one of his ex's like events. She was a dancer and her mom came and the bartender was like trying to get her mom drunk and the mom was like, no, I got to drive. So my buddy Matthew took the drink and was like, I'll drink it, and drank it. Same thing though. He was like, everyone tells me like these stories of acting so erratic.
Yeah.
Like calling like 70 times to be like, where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? And like 100 texts all within the span of like an hour. He said he woke up the next day and the last thing he remembered was like taking the drink at the bar.
Right.
And he's like, what are you talking about? And his girlfriend at the time was like, I was going to break up with you. Like you're an insane person. And then that's when they were like, oh, I got roofied.
Yeah.
So it's just, the fact that people just walk around with that shit in their pocket
It's so it's literally mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Also, I don't know if this is because I'm a big baby or because I'm like a super sensitive, emotional guy.
Are you a Cancer?
No.
Well, water sign. Are you a water sign?
No.
Air sign?
Yes.
Gemini?
Yes. I'm a psycho.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Gang, yeah.
My ex was a Gemini.
I'm fucking.
You guys are so similar.
Looney Tunes. But it is interesting because it's one of those things where it's just like, I have a hard enough time sleeping, like when I was single, sleeping with people who I knew wanted to sleep with me because I'm so, like even with my girlfriend now, like I didn't kiss her till like the 5th date. And it took her being like, hey, when are you going to kiss me?
Yeah,
Because I was just
I
don't like to put anyone in that kind of a situation.
Sure, yeah.
So it's just weird to me.
Unfathomable.
Yeah, like where people just walk around to be like, oh, I'm going to wait till they're blacked out and asleep, and then we're going to have fun. It's like, that's, ugh.
Yeah, I know. It's
That's
so
not even fun.
It's so cringe. Yeah.
So you get through college, obviously. You're here with us now, unscathed.
Surprisingly. All my scars are internal.
Oh, I say that on stage. I go, most comics say their scars are internal, but I don't talk about it. I be about it.
That's cute.
Thank you. That's what I want my comedy to be.
That's cute.
So let's talk about a couple of things that you sent me. So the martini thing, how did that happen?
So my drink of choice right now, I feel like, is a martini. It's usually where I go, like my go-to lately.
How did that even? Because your dad's more of a dark liquor drinker.
Even though now I feel like he drinks the martinis because of me, and I'm like, oh, God, it's like the fucking
you have to take everything from me.
It's a blind leading the fucking blind. But yeah, basically
that's my thing, Dad.
Yeah, seriously, I was like, it is my thing. So I feel like I started to like explore with espresso martinis. I can't have coffee, like I will die.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I do drink coffee, but I know I'm having a panic attack. Like the feeling you get when you have bad news, like I will have that.
Yeah, because you're super sensitive to caffeine.
So sensitive to caffeine. It's I drink decaf and everyone thinks I'm a pussy. I'm like, yeah, I wear it proudly.
Yeah.
Because I can't handle it. So I went through a really shitty period where three people very close to me, to my life, to my family members passed away in a 6-month period.
Oh, wow.
And I can't even explain. Grief is like a whole other episode, but like I was on one and I remember I was so anxious so I couldn't sleep and I was so tired. You know when you're like a tired skeleton? Like that's basically how I felt. So I would order espresso martinis.
I'm very aware of what my life is like.
Literally. So I was like, okay, I'm going to like order espresso martinis because like I'm going to drink. I need to like chill, but I also need to wake the fuck up. Because
you've been, like insomnia.
But those things are horrible. Like actually for your body, I feel insane. It's like a vodka Rebel is actually insane. Like,
yeah.
It's the upper and the down. It's like whatever. It's drugs. It is.
I tell people all the time, if you're going to do an espresso martini, do it with tequila because it's the only alcohol that's a natural upper.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Look at that. I don't like tequila that much.
But I'm just saying, from a chemistry standpoint, it makes the most sense.
Sure. I literally was just like, So then, okay. So the reason martinis became my thing is because I feel like it's like I was like really sitting down thinking about it when we discussed that I was gonna get on the podcast, and I was like, I think this was it. So I have a friend. I'm laughing because I've never told this story publicly.
Here we go.
I have a friend, a really good friend of mine. He's one of my best friends. And I used to hook up with his best friend, like at random, right? Throughout the years. We did have a friendship at one point, but we're not really friends, because also friends don't fuck, but whatever. So
just getting deep down, baby.
Yeah, baby. So we tried to keep him out of it for
your friend,
the friend in common,
yeah,
the mutual friend in common. We tried to keep him out as much as we can, but we failed ultimately. And also, it's hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's giving like new girl.
It's hard.
It's
He's
giving
hard.
Friends. We're both hard. I'm wet. It is what it is. I'm
hard. He's hard. We're all hard. It's hard.
It's everything's slippery.
It's such a juvenile. Well, Brennan, you're a better comic than this. Come on.
I love low hanging fruit. I am a sucker for it. So welcome. You can welcome it on this episode. I love really.
I'm just such a hypocrite because I'll be like at a show and someone will do like a bit like that and then everyone will laugh and I literally will start laughing because they're laughing.
Yeah.
But I always do that thing where I'm like, that's so stupid.
Yeah. I know.
I have to make sure everyone knows. I know that they know that it's fucking stupid.
But if it works, nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
So we, this is a person who like, he's very emotionally stunted. Mm-hmm. Like can't communicate to save his life, like type shit.
Oh, stunted, not like stunting.
No, stunted. Like emotionally, like not like emotional terrorism
Arrested Development, yeah.
Yeah, like very much. So I've always been considerate of him, and he's never been considerate of me, if I'm being completely honest. And I know that a lot of that stuff isn't personal, but it bothers me, right?
Yeah.
So like post this period of grief, post like whatever, I definitely, it fundamentally changed who I am. Like I like the psycho inside of me, it's always there. And I choose every day. I choose peace and love every day, but I'm choosing it. Yeah. Because the true person, like you're
always angry.
Yeah. The rage, it's always there. The pettiness, it's always there.
Wake up and choose violence.
I choose my higher self.
Yeah.
Because choosing is very important. I choose. So it doesn't come naturally from me. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
So whatever.
Me either.
Twins, literally. It makes sense. Most comics, I would say, are similar. So after this like period of like grief, blah blah blah. Okay, so we end up like being together one night, messing around, blah blah. And I like dedicate a song to him called "Limón y Sal" by Julieta Venegas, which is a Mexican singer. And the song is about like I love you with lemon salt, kind of like I love you with a grain of salt. Like we don't always get along, but like I'm gonna love you regardless, type shit. Very cute song, right? Because he's been in my life for a long time. And it was kind of like an inside joke we had. And then, he's not always been transparent with me. And I thought for some reason, it's going to be different. We're a little older. Like things like, it was like, we would like sometimes mess around and then he'd be super weird about it afterwards.
Okay.
And I was like, where did this come from? He was so hot and cold sometimes, I didn't know who I was going to get. So let's just call him Joey. So,
how long does this happen with Joey?
On and off. I mean, I don't even know, years, but it was never like a consistent thing.
Yeah.
I think at one point we were actually friends and we'd hang out all the time, but it was like not really, it was kind of like at random. I'm going to change the name actually. Let me call him Will. So Will.
Everybody tracking?
So we like hang out, whatever. Then like the week later is our friend's 30th birthday bash.
And how far removed from the death and all that kind of stuff is this?
At this point,
because you said it was like a 6 month period.
Probably like a 7-8 months.
Okay.
From like the last death.
Okay.
That like hit home. And 30th birthday bash, and it's Bond themed. So I'm dressed the fuck up. I look good. Like I was dressed to the nines. Everybody was complimenting, wow, you look amazing, whatever. Everyone's dressed. And he looks like a Bond villain.
Yeah.
Like his suit is completely out, no size. Like it's completely wrong. The guy's like a big dude. He's like tall as fuck. Yeah. It's like a tree. So he's just like a mismatched tree. Like
5'11"?
He looked insane. No, dude.
Get it because you're so short. Hey.
No, super tall. Like I want to say like 6'4". And I clocked it. And I knew immediately when I pulled, because he pulled up after me, I was like, he's going to be weird. This is going to be weird.
Yeah, you can just feel it.
Yeah. So then he goes up to the bar. It's open bar. And he orders a martini with a lemon twist. And I said, oh, martini with a lemon twist, like lemon and salt. And he says this to me. He goes, excited. Don't you think it's a little too early in the night, Thalia, for that? When I
Did you choose violence?
Bro, when I tell you that it was like all bets are off. I was like, because that's another thing. Grief doesn't give you any patience. You have no patience for shit like that. And I was like, after all these years, you choose to humiliate me?
Oh, he said it like out loud for...
No, but to me, he's humiliating me.
Yeah.
And he's acting like we haven't fucked sober, which we had done plenty of times. So I was like, after many years, you're going to tell me I'm an afterthought? You could have just laughed it off. It was a joke. Like, you know what I'm saying? But instead...
Oh, I know. I'm getting frustrated thinking about this whole situation as you're saying.
You went out of your way to make me feel that way. And I said, okay, word? All right.
Is he like a super attractive guy? This sounds like hot guy shit.
He's a good looking dude. Yeah, he's very good looking, talented, very smart, very like
sounds like hot guy stuff.
Super intelligent, has trouble communicating, I feel. Yeah. So I go up the stairs and I take a deep breath and I look in the mirror in the bathroom and I was like, God, please give me a fucking sign to put this bitch in his place.
Church.
Because I am imagine it said church on the mirror. I literally said, God, please give me a sign. Yo, Brenna, you're not gonna fucking believe this. I walked down the stairs, right? Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, a conglomerate of British friends of my friends for my friend's birthday surprised him. They came from the UK to surprise him. And I picked the tallest one and I go, what's your name? He says, it's Will. Same name as the other guy. And I said, no fucking way, dude. I was like, no
And they
way.
probably looked good.
Oh, dude, he looked insane.
Yeah.
And he had a British accent. Like, he looked insane. He was a
Hello,
beautiful
love.
guy.
Hello, love. My name is William as well.
Literally, he was a beautiful guy, very attractive, good-looking dude, young, like, whatever. So I'm like
15.
It was like 15, just how I like him. Balls barely dropped. And I just pounced on him. You know what I'm saying? We're all over each other the whole night. And people started to notice. People know that me and Original Will have like a thing. So they're like, what the fuck? Didn't they fuck around like a week ago?
Yeah, like, what's happening?
Now this is happening. It's great. So it was like humiliating for him.
Yeah.
And I could tell he was like clocking.
Yeah, you turned it up to 11.
I said, let's go. Let's fucking go.
I can appreciate that.
And after that, Brennan, he was the kindest, nicest person ever. After that, after he saw that, my friend interjected and was like, you're a hypocrite. That's like, you're a homie hopper type shit. And I was like, they're not homies. I was like, they don't know each other.
Guy.
I was like, it's across the pond. They happen to be friends with you. He will probably be at the wedding and he has to think about how he dicked me the fuck down. And he did a great job at it. The little British kid. He knew what he was doing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. Like I would have done it regardless.
Original Will was super nice to you after?
So he always is like, I feel like he's also like, I think I trigger him a little bit somehow because I live so authentically in my truth and he doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So I think he's always like waiting to see. He immediately, next time I saw him, he's like, hey, Thalia, what's up? Like trying so hard to be like, I'm totally fine about this. Like DM'd me on Instagram about a story. Dever watches my shit. Like now, like he's all trying so hard to prove how cool he was about it. But when my boy confronted me, I was like, oh, you're going to take his side? Yeah. He eventually, I think, came around after like years of like recognizing, oh wow, my friend's a piece of shit. Yeah. He like came around and like sort of sees my side of things, but I was like, they're not homies. I was like, because I would never homie hop. That's like not my thing. Do you know what I mean? And I know
what you mean, but it's just funny.
I think it's gross when your community dick.
It sounds like a hilarious like after school special, homie hopping.
Homie hopping.
This fall on NBC.
So he's like, you literally did what you said you wouldn't do, and I was like, at what point do you want me to like, because obviously my friend doesn't know the whole story because, I mean, he might now, but he doesn't know the whole story because he's like, we tried to keep him out of it. Yeah. But I'm just like, at what point do I just keep, like, I just snapped, a switch went off where I was like, I don't have to, like, you want to play this game and like, let's play it then. Like, if I'm not going to.
If we're going to play, let's play,
Yeah, I'm not going to uphold my integrity or standards for someone who's never been considerate of me.
Yeah. And now you drink martinis.
And now I drink it, but I drink them dirty and up because I'm a filthy little girl, Brennan.
I wanted to ask you, because we were talking about the car thing earlier. You have a car in New York City. I do have a car in New York City. I think it's very hilarious how you got it. And you don't have to go into too many details.
I can't. I literally can't.
No, but you just were given a car.
I was given a car because
No, don't get too far into it. But certain choices were made, certain things were happen, and you were given a car.
So just to let you know, if you got a DUI, a good lawyer will tell you you can either drink or you can drive. Yes. But you can't do both. And certain people chose to drink, not drive. So they were like, here's the car.
It's not... I wanted to bring it up because I have 2 DUIs, and this is something that's fascinating to me because when my older sister...
Third time's a charm.
When my older sister, she got a new car and she gave me her old car. And her whole thing, this is when I was in college, like sophomore year. I went to college with the car. It was a 1989 Chevy Cavalier that I had bought with my graduation money. And it was a POS.
I had bought?
I had bought with my graduation money. And it was a POS and it broke down like my freshman year. Mm-hmm. So my sophomore year, my older sister was like, I'll give you my old car. It runs great. My uncle had put a lot of money into it, so it still worked perfect. Still a Chevy Cavalier, just a newer one. Like a 2000. And this is in 2009. And she goes, the only rule is you cannot get a DUI. Because our whole family has lost a lot of, like our friends in high school and stuff to drinking and driving. So it was always the front of mind. She lost one of her closest friends, like his sophomore year of college, to a DUI, or to drinking and driving. So she was like, you cannot drink and drive in this car. I was like, I promise. I promise. And then I ended up drinking and driving and I got my DUI in that car. And she was lit. She was like, we had one fucking deal, man. And this is like when Uber and Lyft and everything was becoming a thing. Yeah. She's like, we had one deal. And so it's to your point where it's like, you can either drink or you can drive, but you can't do both. And then fast forward, when I get my second DUI, I wasn't even driving. I was in a parking lot, but it was still that same kind of thing where it was like, just fucking call. I ended up getting an interlock in my car, the blower thing. Mm-hmm. And I would still drink. And then I would just not drive for like 2 days. When I first went to get the interlock, the night before, I was like, oh, I don't have the appointment until like 10 o'clock. I can drink until 2 a.m. because then 8 hours, it'll be out of my system. And then I went to the interlock place with my grandmother and my uncle, and I blew into the thing. He was like, are you drunk right now? And I was like, no, I'm fine. And so he installed it into my car, and he was like, blow into this to start the car. And I blew into it, and he's like, yeah, you're hammered, dude. He's like, the car won't even start. And it was super embarrassing. And I was crying. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
But then I came back the next day and I was able, he was like, I'm not going to report this because
Right.
like you didn't know, like you had just gotten the thing installed. But if you come back tomorrow and you're still drunk, I will report it and you'll go to prison.
Yeah.
So then I went back the next day and I blew and it was fine. But to your point, like it's so weird to be like, because in my head it never registered as
Right.
like, you can't do both.
Yeah.
Like we would always just drink and drive when I was a kid. And so it's so, when you told me you got the car because of the situation, I was like, I should have given my car away. That's what I should have done.
Right. I mean, people make the choices and you have to live with those choices. It is what it is.
Yeah, it's just.
But it's nuts.
I wanted to ask you we got to go soon, but the last thing I wanted you to talk about was we talked about this before at the stand, and this was the whole precipice of the episode, but the sober curious thing, which is something you're familiar with. How did you discover that in your life? Because I've talked about it on the show how I've discovered people just like not wanting to drink for periods of time, whether it's for health reasons or they did something stupid or whatever it is. How did you even come about that, growing up in a family where drinking was a part of the culture?
My mom doesn't love to drink, really. She's not like a big drinker, so she likes to order mocktails, and that kind of started when I was younger and I would be out. I would order, like younger, like underage or 13, 14, I would order Shirley Temples a lot.
Yeah.
So I knew that like mocktails were a thing. It wasn't really a word for it. I would say like 20 years ago, it wasn't really a word for it.
You would just say Shirley Temple.
Right. So then my mom would start ordering. I started to see them more and more on the menu, like dinners and stuff like that. And then my dad would do like dry January or like a couple people I know would like not drink. But when I started taking it a little more seriously, it was I had a fitness trainer. And I was like, dude, I'm not losing weight. Like I'm working, I'm killing it at the gym. Because I live at the gym. I'm like a gym psycho. But I do eat and drink a lot. And he was like, stop drinking. And I was like, what? Oh, I don't even drink. And he was like, stop.
Erroneous.
Yeah. I was like, no way. And he's like, dude, stop drinking. Like I'm telling you right now, you're going to lose weight like that. It's probably a lot of inflammation.
A lot of sugar.
Literally.
And
I had a nutritionist tell me, have you been drinking? I would take progress pictures. And he's like, have you been drinking? I was like, yeah. And he's like, I can tell because your stomach is inflamed. And I was like, what from a picture? I was like, what the fuck? He could like.
You're bloated all over.
Yeah, literally. So then I stopped and it was crazy. Like the gains I got, like the sleep I was getting, like was like, oh, you know what I mean? I was melting off the fat or whatever. Because also when I drink, I don't eat a salad. You know what I'm saying? I have burgers and fries and blah, blah, and I have like really unhealthy food habits. So I was like, fuck. And so
I
then
gained 80 pounds in 3 months after I stopped playing college football. Same thing though. I was drinking every day and then I was having like Taco Bell for dinner at 2 in the morning.
Like, of course, your body, you're going to feel like shit. And like, so I started to explore with that. And then I was like, oh, let me order some mocktails. And then I started to be intentional with my not drinking. So like when we hung out at the stand, I call it the usual because the boys already know. I always order like this like hibiscus mocktail or whatever.
Yeah.
So I started doing that and I started drinking, I started exploring it a little more. I moved into my new apartment and I couldn't sleep because I was like really anxious. I'm like an insomniac, so I have trouble sleeping all the time. From any little thing, it'll offset it. And I ordered these recessed sodas. Soda, it's like this has like adaptogens and all this other shit in it that help you relax. And I was like, this is amazing. It like helped me sleep.
Oh, wow.
Because I also think, because weed isn't good sleep. It's not good quality. People are like always like, oh, I smoke weed to sleep. I'm like, I can't do that because I will wake up, guaranteed I'll wake up within 5 or 6 hours and I'll be lethargic and demotivated. And like, so it's like not my
It was the same thing with drinking for me. Like I would wake up and have energy because of the sugar crash or whatever. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Your body like.
Or anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. But it was never good sleep.
No.
Like I'd be blacked out, but I'd wake up and be like, I don't feel good.
Yeah. I didn't get good sleep last night and I only had a couple drinks.
Yeah.
So I 100%. So like I was like, let me explore this or whatever. And so yeah, I got really into it and like I have a couple friends who don't drink that much and like also just that as I got older I noticed like I went out for my birthday and I was drinking and I didn't have a lot to drink and but it was like I mixed a bunch of different alcohols and I woke up with the worst hangover and I had to work and it was like a Thursday. Like I woke up Thursday morning and I was like, what the wrong? And I was like, and it was just like things changed as you got older and I was like, this isn't worth it to me anymore. I don't care as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
So you'll for the listeners, you'll just go stretches of like weeks, months with just no drinking at all and then just.
No, I would say it's like 2 days out of the week, 3 days out of the week, I make it a point to not drink. I'll be out, but I won't drink.
Yeah.
If I'm home, I'm probably not going to drink.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? I call it like sober curious in the sense that I'm intentional about not drinking.
Yeah.
Like, because before I feel like if I was at a restaurant, someone like, you want a glass of wine? Oh yeah, I'll have a glass of wine.
That's what I was going to say.
I won't do that.
Yeah. So because it's interesting in our line of work, obviously with the comedy aspect, it's always at bars or restaurants or places, comedy clubs that their main motivation is to sell drinks.
Yeah.
So it is interesting that you go out of your way to be like, no, these days I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I ever fell off the wagon, I would just be fucking hammered all the time.
Also for me,
because we're always at places.
No, because we're always at places that are probably triggers.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm, how do I explain it? I guess I just feel like I don't drink as often I don't drink by myself.
Yeah.
I don't get triggered. But I feel, so maybe this is because I'm not an addict that I know of, even though I recognize I'm towing the line here with like both sides having addiction issues of drugs and alcohol, both sides. So it's like, if I'm broke, I won't drink.
Yeah, see,
much.
that
is, so it's like, I'm like, I get to drive.
That's the biggest green flag
I'm saying?
when it comes to like knowing whether or not it's like,
So I'm like, I need to save money. I'm going to drive so I don't have to pay money with Ubers.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay like train, whatever. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that like will help. And I'm like, and having a car does make that easier because when you don't have a car, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you just
know what
have
I mean?
to.
But because I'm like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to like, not, I can't drink.
Yeah.
You know? So that was great.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Plug everything one more time. Let everyone know where they can find you.
www.thaliaromina.com @ the real Thalia Romina.
HTTP //
Go on my website if you want to reach out to my reps. And yeah, I love you all. Thank you for watching and listening.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. We'll talk to you. Oh, hang on a second. @ Brennan T Comedy on all social media. BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the One Man Show on YouTube. Also, Ex Drinking Buddy, a comics look at life, near death, recovery, and redemption. And thank you so much for listening. Get your Ex Drinking Buddy merch. Shouts out. Zach Bennett, get your Immaculate Trash merch. We'll talk to y'all next week.